In this chapter, we're going to discuss quality beverage management standards. After completing this chapter, you should be able to explain the importance of producing quality non-alcoholic beverages, describe federal, state, and local regulations that impact the purchase and management of alcoholic beverages, explain basic management practices applicable to selecting, purchasing, receiving, storing, and issuing alcoholic beverages, explain beverage production standards for bar layout and drink preparation procedures, describe the use of manual and automated beverage production methods, describe 3 beverage service methods, and explain procedures for managing wine sales. Much of this book is focused on the management of food products. Most food and beverage operations generate a largest percentage of revenue from the sale of food rather than beverage products, though. Also, the cost of food products is much larger than the beverage costs in a typical establishment. However, beverage services and sales are also important to a lot of establishments. There are advantages to offering alcoholic beverages, including popularity, profit, and target market's expectations of enjoying wine with meals. But there's also several concerns such as possible liabilities if responsible beverage service is not provided, and loss of family appeal. In addition, numerous regulations increased training and supervision costs for employees, and possible customer behavior problems can create challenges. Managers of operations selling alcoholic beverages have to know how to effectively manage alcoholic beverages sales, and that's going to be our primary topic of this module. Before we talk about alcoholic sales, let's talk about non-alcoholic beverages. The number and type of beverages offered can be extensive, but essentially they're going to break down into 5 categories. Water. Water is the world's most important and popular beverage. It is uniquely American custom to offer complimentary water immediately upon seating customers. I can tell you that in foreign countries, you don't always get the option for water unless you ask for it. Managers can offer tap water available through the local water supply source or bottled water. Here in the Memphis area, we have some of the best tap water there is in the nation because of our aquifer. Some operations may even go a step further. If they have bottled water, they may offer carbonated or still, or what they call flat water, which is a non-carbonated water. Coffee. Coffee is grown in many parts of the world and is enjoyed by restaurants and food service guests worldwide. You can get coffee in different forms. You can get coffee in regular or decaffeinated. There's multiple different options for coffee. They can be purchased pre-ground or in whole bean, depending on your operation. Some of the things that will affect the coffee service itself is, of course, water quality. So it goes back to the quality of the water itself. The coffee bean quality, the different, not only the bean quality, but also the roast of the bean, depending on how it's roasted, whether it's a light roast or a dark roast. The water temperature is going to play a factor in that too. If the water is too hot, it'll scald the coffee. If it's too cold, you won't get enough of the transmission of the coffee bean through there. Equipment itself, coffee making equipment has to be kept very clean. Dirty equipment yields coffee with an off flavor. Also, the types of brewing machines there are, whether it's a pour over coffee maker like you see in fancy baristas these days, with the little filter paper in it and the coffee inside there, and they just gently pour the water over it. That's an example of a pour over coffee. The percolator was made famous in the 1940s and 50s thanks to Mr. Coffee. But today we prefer not to use the percolated style of coffee because it's a little more bitter. Holding time also affects it. Typically, a lot of coffee is held no more than about 30 minutes or so, hot held. It starts to lose its flavor. It starts to develop a bitterness to it after that, and we want to limit that as much as possible. Tea. Now, here in the United States, we think of tea as cold tea, but in many cultures, tea is the predominant beverage of non-alcoholic types. Tea has 3 basic types. It has black, green, and oolong. And in the United States, about 90% of the tea consumed is black tea. We may have things like an English breakfast tea, which is often served with milk, a Darjeeling, which is a blend of Himalayan teas suited for drinking with most meals. But here in the United States, the most common form of tea that we see, particularly here in the South, is called the orange pekoe. This is a blending of several different teas, and this is the one you're going to see most commonly in iced tea, and particularly sweet iced tea here in the South. Lipton made this popular years ago. Green tea is not oxidized. Green tea has a more delicate taste. It's light green or gold in color. Oolong tea is popular in China, and it's partially oxidized and has a cross between a black and a green tea in color and taste. You also may find herbal teas, which contain no true tea leaves. Instead, they steep flowers, berries, peels, seeds, leaves, or roots of plants in boiling water to create these herbal teas. Making tea also depends on the several qualities of, similar to coffee. The water quality, of course, is always going to be paramount. The cup temperature and the water temperature. You want to preheat your cup, and a lot of times what you'll do is you'll take hot water, pour it into your cup, and then pour that water out. Water temperature is also important. We want the water to be at or near the boiling point, but not over the boiling point. We don't want it to be at a boil when we add the tea. We want to let it come to a boil, turn the water down, let it sit for a second. And typically we're talking about around 190 to 200 degrees for a good brew of tea. Anything more than that, it could actually bring out the bitterness of the tea. Steep time, we want 1 to 3 minutes is best for depending on the type of tea and the water temperature itself. And then any kind of condiments that may go with it, such as granulated sugar, low calorie or no calorie sweeteners, lemon wedges, milk, all of these can be added to teas as well. Soft drinks. There are a myriad of soft drinks out there. Everything from flavors of root beer to flavors of cola nut to more crisp, clean flavors such as lemons and limes. But basically, all soft drinks come down to 3 ingredients: CO2, purified water, and flavored sugar syrups. The carbon dioxide is colorless, odorless gases used to carbonate the water in soft drinks and beer. Although you do see today some sodas being made with nitrous oxide, which is a little bit different. It's similar. It's going to give it a head similar to a Guinness beer that has the really small frothy bubbles in it. Many managers buy bag-in-the-box containers of syrup. Today, you see the small cartridge units, which we see in fast food restaurants all the time. These are the big drink machines where you get the multiple options in there. The little cartridges inside of there, think of it like printer cartridges. You plug them in there, and they are a super, super concentrated form of the formula, even more so than what you would get in the bag-in-the-box syrups. Soft drinks produced and served on site can be of high quality if attention is given to the several factors, such as water quality, again, syrup levels, and carbonation levels.
Have you ever noticed how fountain drinks differ from location to location? Or even at the same store, but from a different dispenser? Ever wonder why? How do we measure the amount of syrup in a drink? A Brix cup and a syrup separator are used to see, measure, and calculate the syrup to water ratio.
3 samples from the same dispenser or valve.
Here are 3 Brix cups, all with the same water level. Notice that the syrup levels in each are different. This is a syringe with the tube already primed with syrup. We siphon off the excess syrup with the syringe to bring the syrup to the correct ratio. This is excess syrup. This is wasted profit. This is a measurable savings and can be used to figure in an annual savings.
Additionally, equipment cleanliness is a factor in this. If you have a soft drink machine, or if you have what we call a gun, a soft drink gun behind a bar, you want to make sure that that is clean as possible. I've gone into many, many restaurants and used a UV light. I'll flip it upside down. I'll look inside their soda gun, and you can see a mold. You want to get that out of there. You don't want that to sit inside of that, because that will affect your drink as well. And then also ice levels. Not just ice levels in the glass, but ice levels in the dispensary itself, because we want our syrup and our carbonated water to come out as cold as possible, and that's going to help with the mixing of the units. Milk. A lot of restaurants will keep milk on hand for not only cooking purposes, but also for the purposes of customers. They might desire a glass of milk. You may have children that come into the restaurant and the parents want them to have a glass of milk. So we'll keep whole milk or 2% or 1% or skim milk alternatives. We might even keep alternative milks such as oat milk or soy milk on hand as well. Managers serving alcohol should be aware that the alcoholic beverage industry is one of the country's most highly regulated. Federal, state, and local regulations directly affect many aspects of alcohol sales. Any restaurant or food service operation that sells alcoholic beverages must comply with a wide range of laws that govern how they are sold. Federal regulations. Most operations must comply with a variety of federal regulations, such as the Americans with Disabilities Act or federal wage and hours laws, and regulations issued by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Establishments that serve alcoholic beverages are also regulated by the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, or TTB. Its mission, in part, is to ensure that only alcoholic beverage products that have been properly taxed are sold. This agency, a division of the federal government's Department of Treasury, also ensures that these products are manufactured and sold in accordance with the applicable labeling and advertising and marketing laws. The federal government's Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, or ATF, also enforces laws applicable to alcoholic beverages. It is part of the Department of Justice and works in cooperation with other federal, state, and local and international law enforcement agencies. The ATF plays a variety of critical alcohol sales related roles, such as disrupts and eliminates criminal and terrorist organizations by identifying, investigating, and arresting offenders who traffic in contraband or illegal liquor or both. It works to seize and deny further access to assets and funds used by criminal enterprises and terrorist organizations. It prevents encroachment of the legitimate alcohol and tobacco industries by organizations trafficking in counterfeit or contraband cigarettes and illegal liquors. And it assists local, state, and federal law enforcement and tax agencies to thoroughly investigate the interstate trafficking of contraband cigarettes and liquors. State regulations. There are also laws that apply to those selling alcoholic beverages. A government agency in all states, typically called the Alcoholic Beverage Control, ABC, Commission, license operations to sell alcoholic beverages and monitors compliance with applicable laws. The ABC generally works in cooperation with county or city agencies, which may have their own regulations. Several types of liquor licenses are available in most states. A liquor license is a state authorized permit that allows the liquor holder to sell alcoholic beverages in compliance with state, local, and federal laws. Establishments such as bars and restaurants typically have an on-premise license, which allows the property to sell alcohol in the same location where it will be consumed. By contrast, grocery stores and other retail businesses have an off-premise license. This allows them to sell alcohol that will be consumed elsewhere. Off-site catering opportunities will typically involve having an on-premise license, but it's specifically designed for off-site catering purposes. Establishment owners may request to be granted a license to sell only beer, beer and wine, or beer, wine, and spirits. The number of liquor licenses granted in a specific area is typically limited by the area's population. Liquor licenses are generally granted for 1 year and then must be renewed. For instance, here in Tennessee, we have a state board that governs the sale of liquor and wine, and then we have county boards that govern the sale of beer. Licenses can be revoked if state regulations are violated. Managers operating businesses with a liquor license must be familiar with and carefully follow all regulations that apply to their operation. They must know about their responsibilities as far as what is sold, where it is sold, when it is sold, how it is sold, and to whom it is sold, and in what quantity it is sold. In addition to ABC requirements, states are concerned about collecting the taxes due from alcoholic beverage sales. Records of alcoholic purchases and sales must be maintained, and these records can be examined by the state's taxing authority at any time. Many municipalities have their own liquor authorities and regulations that affect the sale of alcoholic beverages, and local laws are often stricter than the applicable state laws. These local authorities may have a responsibility for enforcing alcohol laws and issuing and monitoring compliance, issuing violations for citations, and holding hearings for violators of the liquor code. Fire and safety codes are also often developed and monitored by local governments and will be of concern to managers. Local health department inspect all establishments selling food and beverages. Inspectors want to know how the establishment store alcoholic beverages, washes its glassware, and maintains and stores juices, fruit garnishes, ice creams, and other used items to prepare alcoholic beverages. Some highly publicized nightclub fires that caused many deaths in the early 2000s have made many community regulators increasingly concerned about fire safety in business serving alcohol. Local building codes related to construction materials, available building exits, and maximum occupancies may be enforced by police, fire, and building department personnel and the zoning officials who regulate building locations. Beverage operations can be profitable. For example, the contribution margin for each dollar of beverage sales is typically much higher for beverages than for food. Many procedures required to purchase, receive, store, and issue alcoholic beverages are the same as those for used in managing food. However, some are different. Alcoholic beverages are expensive, theft-prone, and under specific regulations. Managers must implement practices to control alcoholic beverages and to ensure that what is actually spent for alcoholic beverages is in line with planned expenses. Those responsible for purchasing alcoholic beverages must design a purchase system that considers several factors: the beverage products and bar supplies needed, the quantity of products and supplies needed, the quality of requirements for those necessary products, the suppliers who will consistently supply the products at the best prices and on the most favorable terms, the frequency of placing orders, and the persons who will be responsible for managing beverages. There are typically two types of states as far as government regulations for the sale of alcohol. One is control states. Control states is where the state is the sole supplier of the spirits. Individuals and retail establishments must purchase all spirits directly from state stores. Licensed states. In licensed states, the state grants licenses to wholesale distributors and sometimes to manufacturers that permit these businesses to sell alcohol within the state. The specifics of how much and what type of control is in place differs by state. For example, some control states retain their control of spirit sales, but allow the licensing of beer and wine sales. Regardless of the restrictions on purchasing procedures, managers must carefully select the beer and spirits they will offer. Beers. In many establishments, they offer a selection of traditional and low-calorie or light beers, as well as craft beers and local beers. The popularity of alternative beers varies by region, and local beer distributors will know the best-selling brands in the area. Beer can be purchased in bottles, cans, or kegs. In nearly all cases, canned or bottled beers are finished by pasteurization. This is the final step in the beer production that heats the product to 140 degrees Fahrenheit to around 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 60 to 66 degrees Celsius for 20 to 60 minutes to kill any bacteria and any remaining live yeast cells. Some bottled beers are not pasteurized. In this case, the beer is passed through a fine filter to remove yeast cells and any other impurities. Many small or microbreweries sell unpasteurized beer in bottles or can. Nearly all beer distributed in kegs is also unpasteurized, but is filtered to remove impurities. All unpasteurized beer products must be kept cold to ensure their highest quality. Keg or draft beer is less expensive per ounce than bottled or canned beer, and contribution margins from sales are higher. However, spoilage can be a concern. Adequate refrigeration space is required, and beer lines and taps must be frequently cleaned. Spirits. Managers can select from a wide variety of spirits. They must determine the type of products such as gin, vodka, and whiskey, and also the quality level of each. The challenge is to balance customers' demands with the inventory of manageable size. Every operation is different. The operations concept is the most important factor in determining the variety and type of spirits to offer. Additionally, the space available behind the bar as well as storage in should be taken into consideration. One important decision is to determine which spirits will be well brands, Those can be served when there is no preference for a specific brand, and which will be call brands, a specific brand requested by a customer. The best call brands are sometimes referred to as premium or even super premium, depending on the product cost and selling price potential. Basic procedures for receiving alcoholic beverages are the same as those discussed for food in Chapter 4. However, since most beverages are purchased by brand, the brand becomes the purchase specification against which receiving employees must check to ensure quality. Even well-educated employees can have difficulty reading the labels of some wines, such as German Gewürztraminer Spätzles or Trockenbeeren Auslese. After receiving, they must be stored. Storage of alcoholic products involve more than placing them in a storage area until needed. Most spirits are relatively non-perishable, and the shelf life of canned and bottled beer products is long. Wine is also easy to store under the proper temperature controls. However, it is important to consider the quality of the products to be stored and how that storage process will be managed. There are several basic principles. Restrict access to the fewest possible employees. Beverages are theft prone, and open door policies that permit any staff member to enter beverage storage areas are unacceptable. Lock all beverage storage areas. Minimize the amount of product stored in the bar areas. Behind bar storage should be lockable and hold only the quantity of products needed for service during a shift. Require that a manager be responsible for product issues to bartenders during a shift to encourage effective issuing and control access to storage areas. And use a perpetual inventory system so managers will always know the quantity of products that should be available. There are several storage principles that will help maximize the quality of beers. Store kegs between approximately 36 and 38 degrees Fahrenheit or 2 degrees to 3 degrees Celsius. Store canned and bottled beers at 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 degrees Celsius or lower. And rotate the stock when they are delivered. Carefully monitor expiration dates on beer products. The last thing you want is skunky beer. Additional storage suggestions apply to spirits. Store spirits in clean, dry, and well-ventilated areas. Store sealed cases and bottles with a date of receipt marked on each case to allow for easy rotation. Store individual dated bottles upright on shelving to allow for easy rotation as well. Avoid excess heat in beverage storage areas. Many managers keep a perpetual inventory of alcoholic beverages so they will always know the quantity of each beverage product available in inventory. This has several advantages. Reduced opportunities for theft, the ability to determine how many additional products should be ordered, and rapid and accurate counts of product usage. Managers should do a physical count to determine the quantity and costs of alcoholic beverages in inventory at least once per month. In many establishments, the inventory locations include central storage spaces and areas behind the bar. This is an example of a simple physical inventory form for alcoholic beverages. In addition to alcoholic beverages, other items must be stored for beverage production. It would include things such as drink mixes and juices, garnishes, and disposable products like straws, napkins, and stir sticks. There must be also an adequate supply of glassware. These are all things that you want to keep an inventory of as well. Refrigerated storage may be necessary for cream or drink mixes such as Bloody Marys and exotic drinks made with fruit juices, fruits, and vegetables for garnish, and fruit for drinks such as daiquiris. These items will likely be prepped before the beginning of each shift, so no long-term storage is needed. Ice cream and frozen mixes may require specialized storage space. Counter space for blenders and point-of-sale systems and a wide range of other equipment and supplies generally is necessary. The proper issuing of and accounting for beverage products is just as important as their purchase and storage. Few operations employ full-time storeroom clerks to manage beverage storage areas and issue beverages. As a result, control when issuing can be a challenge. Bars should ideally be stocked on a regular schedule. For example, the bar may be set up for the midday shift in the morning and for the evening shift in the afternoon. When reasonable behind-the-bar par levels are established, they can help reduce the number of emergency issues that must be made during busy bar shifts. Behind bar par levels are the number of bottles of each item that should be behind the bar at any given time. During a shift, the par should represent the total number of full, partially full, and empty bottles. Two important steps are required when issuing beverage products. Bottles should be issued on a bottle-for-bottle basis. Exchange an empty bottle for a full bottle to reestablish behind the bar par levels. An issue requisition should be completed by the bartender or manager who stocks the bar. A bartender might assemble all empty bottles at the end of the shift. The type of spirit bottles emptied are noted in column 1 in this example, and the number of empty bottles of each type is noted in column 2. The size of the bottle is noted in column 3, and the cost is noted in column 4. This is an easy to determine if the cost is written on the label at the time of issuing. You may even have a booklet that has all the costs associated with this, or it might be in a spreadsheet, or it might be in a tablet form. You may have it as an automatic app on a tablet or a phone. The total cost of each beverage product is determined by multiplying column 2 times column 4 and noted in column 5. The manager then signs the completed issue requisition, and the issue requisition form and empty bottles are taken to the central beverage storeroom. There, full bottles are issued on a bottle-by-bottle basis to replenish the bar stock. Now, this may sound like it's a little more work than normal, and it is a little more work than normal. Most bars, and unfortunately a lot of bars, will actually just throw their bottles away when they're empty and assume to go get a new one. If you use this type of one-for-one trade-in, you can actually tell how much bottles are being used. You can tell if there's a theft. You can tell if there is an overusage of product. There's a lot of benefits for this, particularly in the theft region, because you know if you're doing a bottle-for-bottle exchange, there should never be an empty slot in one of those cases. Now, once the case is full of empty bottles, then you can throw away the case and get rid of it. Beverage production standards begins with a well-planned layout. The layout of beverage production areas impacts its efficiency. Bars are often part of the customer's environments and must be strategically placed. The layout also affects the employee productivity and the speed with which beverages can be produced. As with other aspects of the physical facility, factors including the operations concept and budget will, of course, play some role in the final design. Managers must take into account all competing factors. Efficiently designed layouts are important. An island bar in the center of the customer area may be just right for an establishment seeking to attract young professionals who want to mingle. However, this is not likely to be an acceptable bar location in an establishment that wants to attract families. Bartenders need properly designed workstations so they can quickly perform their work without leaving the area while performing tasks such as obtaining products from remote storage rooms or retrieving clean glassware. Likewise, servers must be able to quickly order and pick up drinks and maintain service areas in the safe and sanitary manners. Controlling how alcoholic beverages are prepared is important for several reasons. Product costs must be controlled. Drinks prepared incorrectly will not meet standards and will disappoint customers. And quantity of alcohol served to each customer must be known if the establishment is to serve alcohol beverage responsibly. Managers must standardize drink production, and this will require careful monitoring of bar recipes and drink sizes. Beverage glasses in which drinks are served and even the ice used becomes important. Standardized recipes is a bartender's best friend. A bartender is similar to a chef because both, even if they're experienced, must follow standardized recipes. While experienced bartenders do not have to review the standardized recipe before they prepare the common drinks such as scotch and water, they need to use the ingredients, quantities, and garnishes of that recipe requires. However, they may need to carefully study a recipe to prepare a less common drink such as a salty dog. The use of standardized recipes ensure that customers receive exactly what was requested and the establishment provides exactly what was intended. Portion size standards. Standardized recipes for drinks, like those for food, should provide all information needed to properly prepare and serve the drink. However, special attention must be given to portion size, especially the amount of alcohol in the drink. A standardized recipe for a gin and tonic may indicate that 2 parts tonic water and 1 part gin, or 1 ounce of gin and 2 ounces of tonic water. If the manager calculates the beverage cost using this ratio and The customer will find the drink acceptable and the beverage costs will be in line with expectations as long as the drink actually contains these amounts. The average beverage cost will, however, vary widely depending on the quantity of alcohol used in the drink. This shows the number of drinks and their costs and revenue per bottle when the drink sizes varies. Notice the increase in the alcohol cost per beverage, or cost of alcoholic drink divided by selling price, as the quantity of alcohol in the drink increases. Managers who allow bartenders to free pour, this is to pour without portioning tools, must ensure that bartenders neither underpour, that's using less alcohol than is required by the recipe, or overpour, using more than alcohol is required by the recipe. Underpouring, if done consistently and if done intentionally, is actually theft. And overpouring, well, you're giving the customer not only too much alcohol, which is going to cut into the profits of the business, but you can also misappropriate or misinterpret how much alcohol beverage they have consumed, and then you are possibly open to liability. You, the bartender, and the business are open to what's called third-party liability or dram shop laws, which will subject you to not only civil penalties, being sued in court if they get into a wreck, but you can also be held criminally liable for that as well. Other standards, managers can select from many different styles of glasses when they plan how to drink should be served. And this is an important concern. For example, champagne served in a frosted beer mug will produce a poor tasting glass of champagne and an unhappy guest. Here's some examples of different glassware that you can choose from, including a champagne flute. This is about 6 to 8 ounces worth. Typically, you're only going to put about 5 ounces worth of champagne in there. Collins glass, which is a tall, used for larger mixed drinks. Wine glasses come in various different sizes depending on the style of wine. You may have a white wine glass that's smaller with a smaller bowl. You may have a red wine glass, or you may even have a Bordeaux glass, which is a huge bowl. Martini glasses, sniffers, highball glasses, Irish coffee glasses, rocks glasses, different kinds of pilsners or beer mugs, and shot glasses. These are all the kind of glasses that you will need behind the bar, and there might even be more than just these as well. All alcoholic beverages can be produced manually. Some drinks, such as cocktails made with very few additional ingredients and highballs made with spirits and larger quantity of mixers, can also be automatically produced and dispensed. Manual beverage production. All bartenders must be properly trained because they must know how to prepare many drinks regardless of the system used. Bartenders must follow the properties recipes when they are preparing a drink. A jigger is a small shot glass type tool used to measure the amount of alcohol in drink preparations. Typically, one side of it will be about 1 ounce, the other side will be 1.5 fluid ounces, but you also have a larger jigger, which is a 1.5 fluid ounce and a 2 fluid ounce jigger. Some managers require bartenders to use measured pour spouts to produce cocktails and highballs. A measured or metered pour spout controls the beverage quantity by only allowing a specific amount of alcohol to be dispensed. For example, if a manager decides to use a 1 ounce portion, after inserting the spout in the bottle, only the amount will come out of the bottle. Pour spouts are available in a variety of prices. Features range from simple portion control to automatic beverage portion control systems that calculate product usage and compute expected revenue levels and product cost percentages. Many managers of high revenue volume operations automate some of their beverage production processes. This is a good example of casinos will do this as well. Highballs and cocktails can be dispensed in predetermined amounts by machines activated by the bartender. In the best system, the dispensing equipment is connected to the bar's POS system. This helps ensure that each drink produced is automatically charged to the proper customer. This setup also reduces opportunities for bartenders to give away free drinks. A record is kept of the number of drinks produced, the amount of alcohol of each type dispensed, and the revenue value of the drinks. There are other possible benefits of an automated beverage dispensing system, including the elimination of over or under pouring, reduced spillage, reduced drink pricing errors, accurate record keeping for all products sold, fewer bartender errors, less need for bartender supervision, lower and more consistent product costs, reduced cost per product ounce when purchasing in larger containers, and reduced legal liability potential because the amount of alcohol is controlled and recorded. There are three basic methods used for beverage service. Service by bartenders. Customers can place their order directly with the bartender, who then produces the drink and serves it. This is labor-efficient delivery system for drinks served at the bar, and it may also be useful for lounge service when there's very few customers. Service by beverage servers. In some operations, beverage servers take customers' orders and bartenders prepare them and servers deliver them. This service style is most common in dining situations and many upscale bar or lounge settings. The third is service by bartenders and servers, and this is a hybrid model. In some operations, the bartenders may serve customers at the bar and the servers may serve drinks in the lounge area. This system is often used in establishments where guests can consume meals at the bar. Larger establishments with designated lounge and dining areas also commonly use this type of service. Selecting wines is amongst the most difficult beverage purchasing decisions made by many managers. There are thousands of wineries around the world, and each may make several types of wine. Regardless of the food served in an operation, there will be wines available to complement menu offerings. Remember that when wine is served with a meal, it can elevate the dining experience to the special occasion, and that will ultimately result in increased customer satisfaction and greater profits. The proper purchase of wine requires significant knowledge about the product and understanding of value and feeling of which customer will select. Some managers hire wine consultants to assist with wine selection when the extensive wine cellar is desired. However, good managers are able to make an assortment of useful wines for more modest inventory. Before I talk about food and wine pairings, I want to mention the fact that there have been for years hard and fast rules of what you should serve with what wine. Now the rule is there is no rule. You should drink and eat what you like paired together. That being said, there are some suggestions that we generally follow. These are ideas that some wines go better with some food items than others, and wine should be selected after the food item to match the food. However, the preferences of customers are always going to be the most important. Some of these suggestions we might see Cabernets and Red Bordeaux's go great with lamb or beef or steak, roast duck and goose, fatty gamey meats oftentimes as well. Merlots with beef and lamb and venison and roast chicken, Pinot Noir with the roast chicken, rabbit, duck, grilled salmon, or grilled tuna, Syrah, which is more peppery, or Shiraz, depending on where you're from in the world, goes good with roast beef, game meats, barbecue, and pizza, surprisingly. The pepperiness of Syrah actually goes well with a pepperoni pizza. Sangiovese with roast pork and roast chicken, pasta, grilled vegetables, Italian sausages, and pizzas. Sangiovese is one of those grapes that is very well known in Italy, so it would stand to reason that it would go well with Italian foods. White Zinfandel or White Merlot. These are red wines that have been made without the advent of their skins, which contain all of the redding chemicals, the chemicals that turn the wine red. So some of the things with this might be seafood salads or pastas, grilled chicken or grilled pork loin, or Mexican food even. Some white wines like Chardonnay goes well with sole or halibut or cod or scallops, lobsters, roast chicken, pastas with seafood and chicken. White Rieslings. Riesling has a very nice crisp apple taste to it. So it goes very well with roasted pork and chicken and veal and smoked salmon pâtés and sushis of all type. A Sauvignon Blanc goes very well with seafood such as shrimp and calamari, fresh oysters, and sashimi. Pinot Grigio, which is going to go extremely well with grilled chicken and grilled shrimp, as well as veal, actually. And then sparkling wines like champagne go good with appetizers of all kinds, caviar, fresh oysters, sushi, sashimi, and lobster. But like I said earlier, these are nothing more than suggestions. And really, you should pair wine based on what you like, what your flavors like, and more importantly, what your customers like. A wine list is a special menu that identifies the wine selections offered along with their selling prices. Many principles used to design food menus also apply to planning wine lists. Often, other suggestions may include remembering food and wine pairings, match the wine prices to the selling prices of food, make it easier for customers to order. So, for instance, many establishments list wine by the bin number, and then the customer can order number 201. A bin number tells the location of the wine storage area where a specific wine is stored. Offer wine by the glass, so customers ordering different entrees can enjoy a wine that complement their food. Include wine descriptions such as origin, flavor, and special characteristics. Avoid repetition. For example, it's not typically necessary to offer several Merlot wines on a short wine list. Be sure information is accurate and correctly spelled. This is going to be one of those things where spell check may or may not help you. Obtain the information from the bottle label and ask distributors about region, vineyard, and vintage. Vintage wines are grown from grapes in one vineyard during one season. More detailed menu item specific information must be considered when wine lists are developed, such as including light and dry red wines when the menu features beef, include full body red wines when the menu features game and game birds, include dry wines, particularly dry white wines when the menu features pork and poultry and veal or other seafood, and include some semi-sweet or sweet wines to complement desserts and anytime the customers prefer them. Include sparkling or carbonated wines to be sold with dessert as well, and then select wines that are readily available in quantities consistent with the establishment's anticipated sales volume. If you know that you are a steakhouse and you only serve one big bold Cabernet, you might want to reconsider that because that's going to be one of the most common wines that are sold with steaks. Some other things to consider, you should list them in the order in which they're consumed. Or you may choose to list them in the order in which they're consumed. I wouldn't say you should. Other things to consider when putting together a wine list, you might choose to list them in the order in which they're consumed. So appetizer wines first, entree wines, and dessert wines. You may list them by type, such as color, or region, or even the grape varietal, or the degree of dryness or sweetness. Or you can list them by price range, such as least to most expensive. Speaking of wine pricing, product cost is often a factor in wine pricing. Many customers are aware of the favorite wine's retail selling price and may question the establishment's selling price when it is several times higher. Wine list developers should recognize the need for selling prices to encourage sales while generating a profit. Keep selling prices in line with the operation's overall pricing structure. Offer some inexpensive wines for cost-conscious consumers. Think about wine choices. Think about the customer's desires for alcoholic beverages, typically having choices including beer and other alcoholic drinks. Does selling the glass of wine or bottle and relate to the selling of other alcoholic beverages? And then consider contribution margin. This is the selling price minus the product cost. Wine storage. Storage concerns have to be addressed to keep wines at their highest quality until their sale. General storage suggestions include the following. Store bottled wine on its side. Store red wines at temperatures between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 10 and 21 degrees Celsius. If at all possible, store them at cellar temperature. This is a constant storage temperature between 55 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Store wines and sparkling wines in refrigerators if they're to be used within a few months of purchase, or between 50 and 70 degrees if they will be held longer. And avoid excess light, humidity, and heat in wine storage areas, as these can damage wines in their containers. Wine service. Establishments with high volume wine sales may employ a sommelier, a service employee with extensive knowledge about wines, including wine storage and wine and food affinities. A sommelier advises customers about wine selection, takes wine orders, and presents and serves the wine selected. Most operations don't have this specialized assistant available, and the food or beverage service is responsible for the assisting customers in the wine selection. It's an important first step in selling wine is to have some product knowledge about the products that are available, the wines particularly that are available. Servers should also know how to properly pronounce each wine's name. This is a big factor because if you stumble over Auslese or Baron Auslese or Trockenbaron Auslese, if you have a Gewürztraminer or a Riesling and you don't know how to say it, just those simple terms are going to cause your profitability to go down because you're not going to sell that wine. And the servers are going to feel like they're not really effective at their job as well. This identifies the steps in professional wine service. For the various steps of wine service, I'm going to be linking several videos in this module down below in the supplemental area, and I highly recommend that you go check those out. They're going to be really good for demonstrating on how to serve wine and the various types of wine. That concludes this module's chapter, and hope you have enjoyed this chapter. I hope you've learned something from it, and we will see you on the next one.